It's the engagement ratio. How many people are subscribed and how many people are watching each video consistently.
Let's talk about that a little bit. How do you measure that? What are the things you look for? Hey everybody, welcome back to a SUBTA Friday Live. I am here with Josh Weidling with Tiege Hanley. Josh, how are you, man? Thanks for jumping on.
It's another Friday in paradise. So yeah, good day.
Great. So Josh, you are the influencer and social media marketing manager at Tiege, right?
Yep. Been with the company for 4 years, just under 4 years. Second full-time employee. So
that's awesome. So you wore a lot of hats in the early stages.
Still wear a lot of hats, even in the later stages.
Hey, for those listening and those that watch it later, Josh, tell us a little bit about Tiege so they know about the product and the brand.
Yeah. So Tiege was founded, I think it's 5th birthday this year in July, and we are a men's skincare subscription service. So we give men all the mainly face care products that they need to take care of their skin on a monthly basis. And we also have other additional skin products like soap bars and lip balm and stuff like that. So
it's a replenishment product, right? So they get the same thing every month, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Good. So our topic today is influencer marketing, which we know how critical that can be for a business. And I think that there's probably a lot that we can learn from this conversation on, some people that think that they are worth more than they are when it comes to influencer marketing, talking about some of the strategies, how important it is for your business. But let's just start. If you could just define what it is for some of those people that might not know. Tell us a little bit more about what influencer marketing is and how important it is to you in the business.
Yeah. So influencer marketing has, usually when people think of influencer marketing, they're talking about paying people a lot of money to talk about your product on a social channel that they own. That is one of the main use cases, but you can also say influencer marketing is product gifting. And affiliate marketing also falls under the influencer bucket when it isn't a performance-based system. So a lot of influencers will use affiliate because they know their value and they know that they can get a lot of value out of a commission-based structure. So there's a lot of different areas that kind of encompass influencer marketing, but the overall it's just it's paying someone for their influence over their audience.
And the influence can come in a lot of different forms, right? Because you've got YouTube, you've got Instagram, you got Facebook, you got blogs. Let's talk about how you think about the strategy when going to build one.
Yeah. So, depending on the company, different platforms tend to work better for certain products. I always say that YouTube works best for products that need an explanation, something that needs more than just a picture. And because Instagram is pretty and has lots of awesome pictures and short videos, but if your product needs to be explained, it might not be the best medium. So when your company is looking to get influencer marketing, you have to understand how people are going to receive the information. Right. And that's really crucial to get started. So for Tiege Hanley, we're not just telling men that they have to use one product. We're telling them they have to use at least 4. And if they have never used skincare before, that does take an explanation. So we tend to do most of ours on YouTube.
And it probably helps to have the influencer talk about how they use it and how it's helped them, right? Made their skin clear, whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
Versus a picture of the bottles, like you said, right? Just a picture of the bottles doesn't say a lot.
Yeah, the testimonial aspect is huge because, first of all, any company that's doing this, there's no fast route to success. You should make sure that these people are trying the product, using it, and actually coming up with their own take on it. If it's too formulaic, people, they know when an ad read is an ad read, and they know when there's actual personal touches to something that they're talking about, even if they're being paid for it.
And how do you look at success with some of these, right? Because some of it could be branding. Is it always acquisition? Because I'm sure that there's been times where you've worked with an influencer and it didn't work out. Other times it was tremendous. Tell me how you think about that.
Yeah. So at Tiege Hanley, we mainly focus on acquisition. Being a startup, being a growth startup, we do need to acquire customers. We aren't the Microsofts and the Samsungs and even the Honeys of the world, where a lot of their success is probably defined by clicks and or impressions. But those things are taken into account. And so in the best thing about YouTube, or and with influencer marketing, with content that lives past the launch date, past the day it goes live, is that you might not be successful right out of the gate, but keep an eye on the campaign, because we refer to it as tail, and the campaign's tail is important after that initial like boost at the beginning. And so there are influencers that we've worked with where initially I thought it was a failure, but I look back over a year and then I say, oh, this did end up working out for us. It just didn't work out initially. And then maybe I'll go back to them and work out a new contract.
Well, and there's value too. I have to assume that when you run some pretty good influencer marketing, that your retargeting ads on Facebook might do better, right? So your acquisition cost there goes down because you got that first click attribution. They drove the attention to the page initially, but then the person left, the guy with the retargeting ad. I'm sure, do you take that into account?
Yeah, so you have to, because influencers are at the top of the funnel, and these lower funnel marketing activities like email and paid search and paid social ads, they rely on top of the funnel advertising to drive people to the site that are interested.
Yeah. I mean, I think, a lot of times you got to look at marketing as a whole. Like, how much did you spend that month? How many new customers did you get? Right. And then you can kind of go down into each sort of channel and campaign, but there is value to the exposure from the influencer that gets, 3 weeks later, they get converted through a Facebook ad, right? Or an email, like you said.
Yeah. Making sure you get that click though. I mean, because you can't retarget someone that didn't go to the website.
Right.
So the click is important.
What's the platform you have the most influencers on for you? The YouTube?
Yeah, it's YouTube for sure. We have run, we've done stuff on podcasts and we've done stuff on Instagram and blogs. But the YouTube tends to be the one that's more consistently successful. I
feel like the subscribers to somebody on YouTube are really engaged, right? Like they want to listen to the individual talk, right?
Yeah. And it's definitely a metric that someone who's doing a campaign should be looking at is, it's that, follower to it's the engagement ratio. How many people are subscribed and how many people are watching each video consistently?
Let's talk about that a little bit. How do you measure that? What are the things you look for? Because Instagram person might have 100,000 or 1 million followers and engagement. Like, how are you measuring that on YouTube and some of the other channels?
Yeah. So actually, that's something I was thinking about recently. So I'll talk about Instagram because that is the hottest platform for influencer marketing. And so on Instagram, it depends on what kind of campaign you're doing. Are you sponsoring a feed post, a reel, an IGTV, or a story? The most common is going to be a story. And so you're going to want to know the stats of other recent stories they've had. And so they could have 100,000 followers on Instagram, but if they're not posting to their story often, and if that content isn't engaging, then the likelihood of success with sponsoring a story is going to be pretty low. If the story is a destination for those followers, then you can make the argument that it could be successful. And so you're going to want to pull, you're going to want to ask them for stats from their recent stories. So how many people saw it, so the impressions, and then how did they interact with the story? Did they click on active elements on the story? Instagram tells you that. Did they swipe up? Instagram will tell you that. Did they go next? Did they exit stories? Did they completely skip all the rest of the stories? So these are all stats that are relevant when you're going to make a decision on if an influencer may work for your brand.
I got to believe the swipe up works well, because on a normal Instagram post, you can't put a link in the bio. They could just tag your profile, which then might get them a link. But the swipe up at least gets them to swipe up to a link to get them to a landing page or something, right? Yeah.
So if you are looking for impressions, feed is probably going to be your best bet. If you are a big brand that's looking to make a splash, the feed is great. If you are looking for an action to take place, then you kind of have to do stories. There really isn't another option on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then on YouTube, though, there's a lot. The people that are watching a YouTube video have made a very deliberate action to click on that video in many cases. So the action that they've taken is much different than on Instagram, where they're more just fed content. And so the viewer is going to be more engaged with that piece of content. But when I'm deciding on an influencer to work with beyond just maybe the kinds of videos that they produce, whether they're in gaming or commentary or advice, whatever it may be, is what's the sentiment of the audience? Look at the comments. How are people actually engaging with it? If it's just fire emojis over and over and over again, I mean, someone might think content's fire, but if there's no real discussion, that might be an indicator of how people look at that personality on YouTube.
What percentage of your marketing spend is on influencer marketing?
It's a sizable portion. I don't have the exact number, to be honest, but it is a double-digit percentage.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. And is it in comparison to paid media? Is it close?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And I think for every brand, it could be a little different. Would you say that affiliate or influencer marketing accounts for that percentage of new growth too?
Yeah. I mean, how else are people hearing about a brand if you're not doing paid television campaigns or big, massive billboard or traditional media campaigns? How are people hearing about your brand?
Right.
And with paid platforms, paid social platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok, if you're doing an ad campaign through their ad marketplace, that looks very different, and the costs are very different, and the strategy is very different than influencers. Influencers is a very manual thing, but you have a lot more control. You have a lot more levers you can pull.
Yeah. So some of these, growth phase brands or startup, they don't necessarily have the biggest budgets for this.
Mm-hmm.
What's the strategy and your thoughts around like working with micro influencers?
They can be great. So micro influencers tend to have a lot higher engagement rate, and a lot more engaged audience overall. So that you might not be reaching the biggest group of people, but you might be reaching a way more active group of people. So like instead of sponsoring, I kind of think of in 4 different categories. You've got nano influencers, sub 10,000 followers. Those can be great in like the affiliate channel or just free product exchange. Micro influencers are like 10,000 to 100,000. That metric changes depending on who you're talking to, but those are great for either an affiliate play, so commission, or a paid campaign, depending on how engaged the audience is. And then anything above 100,000 is almost always going to be a paid campaign.
Yeah.
Unless someone depends on commissions and they know the commission model very well.
Right. Yeah, and I think with some of these micro influencers, like you said, like you can send them the product, they're happy to post, and it's like, get us 1 customer every month. Like we're happy, right? Like, a lot of times that could be equal to the acquisition costs or below what you're targeting and what you're getting on other platforms, right?
Yeah, and I was watching one of your videos recently, and you were just saying like maybe it's like you're using micro influencers as like a product for post exchange, but you're also getting the photo for your account.
Yeah, the content. Yes, I did say that. Yeah, there's double value there. There's like more content, people using the hashtags, right? Building that more awareness. And I think like the hard part of that is like monitoring and making sure it's actually posting, right? Like if you got to track it, right? Otherwise things can spiral out of control, and like you realize you're sending out like 50 packages and nobody's posting,
And the big part about micro influencers and nano influencers is they can provide great examples of social proof. When someone searches for your brand, something has to come up.
Yeah.
If you don't think that people are searching for your brand before they're buying, you're living in a fantasy world. Yeah. Even if it's the most trusted person in their life, if they've never heard of the brand, they're going to go on YouTube and they're going to search for a review, or they're going to go on Google and they're going to try to find something that talks about this brand.
Yep. Hey, Josh, someone asked a question here. I'm going to pop it up on the screen. Janine said, is all your spend based on sponsored content, or is there also a performance aspect to compensation?
Sure. Yeah. So it's both. So a lot of the campaigns, especially with the people with over 100,000 followers, those are paid. All the risk is on my end, but all the potential reward is also on my end. So we have campaigns that don't do well, and we don't work with those people again. But then we have campaigns that do really well, and we continue to work with those people, or that content lives on YouTube or Instagram, wherever it is, and it continues to perform well. Right. And so, then there's the percentage compensation end, which is the affiliate side. And there are people that are really, really good at affiliate, and they prefer to do affiliate. And they're hard to find these days because it's really sexy to get a paid sponsored post and you're like, yeah, I can demand this price. But guess what? If you're really influential, you can be making a lot more money doing affiliate.
Josh, what's a strategy or advice you give to people trying to find the right influencers and how to reach out to them and how to get their attention, right? Things like that.
Yeah. So what other brands are they talking about? So it doesn't have to be a competitor, because that might be difficult. So like for us with skincare, if someone's using one of our competitors, they might not even be interested in attempting to try a new skincare routine. But if they're using an adjacent product, like another type of grooming product, or if they've shown that they like to just take care of themselves or improve themselves overall, those are the kind of people we want to reach out to. So maybe they're talking about adjacent brands. Maybe they're just doing the style of content that you think will work well for your channel or for your product. So a lot of times you got to find out what kind of content you're looking to create or what you think will resonate, and then do testing. Don't go all in and spend your entire budget on one piece of content. Try to find some smaller content creators and sponsor them in a bunch of different verticals. See which one works best for you.
Yeah. Do you typically DM them? Do you find their email and email them? Do you find one works better than the other? Anything there?
Yeah, we tend to do email just because it's the more professional setting. If at all, I mean, if we have exhausted every option, we will DM them. Yeah. It's just that weird thing. It's like, I would much rather email a person and be able to present myself in a very professional way than a DM saying, "Hey, I'm a brand, you interested?" Like how much really more can you say in a DM?
Let's talk about the 100,000 plus followers where you are doing a paid sponsored, not commission. What are some negotiation tactics? How do you measure what someone's worth? Like, because there's a wide spectrum here. Like, I've talked to people that have had 3 million followers and told me $5,000. I'm giving a number here. Mm-hmm. And then 1.2 million followers, $5,000, right? And like, they all think they're worth more. Like, tell me how you're attacking that.
Yeah. So the one word that people tend to forget when they do influencer marketing is the word influence. If you are paying for their influence. So views, I always say this, views don't matter. They do, but they don't. We have campaigns that do, let's say 1/10 of the views as other campaigns, and they have the exact same performance and the exact same commission or the exact same payment. So it really just depends on how influential is the person you're working with. And that is a hard number to come to get to. But one of the things that you can look at is how many other promotions are they doing already on their channel? So how well versed are they in doing promotions for other brands, and how well do they pitch a product? And so if they're fumbling over their words and they don't really get a sales message across, well, that's either on them or the brand that's sponsored. Because any good brand is giving guidelines.
On YouTube, can you get click-through data with the link?
Yeah, so just always make sure that the link you're providing is UTM. So,
but do they? Right. No, I know that for us, but like, can I ask the influencer for click-through data from previous sponsored posts? So that'd be interesting, right?
It's definitely interesting. It's definitely not something that I would want anyone that we're sponsoring to do for other brands, because it's sort of part of the secret sauce. Like we've paved the way. So the fact that the best indicator you can get is that we're continuing to sponsor on their channel. Yeah. So if we've only done 1 or 2 videos, it likely didn't work out. Brands don't spend dumb money.
Yeah, but the audience gets stale sometimes, right? Like there's got to be a good time frame between posts. No. Yeah.
So we never do more than once a month. That's our cadence. And with some, depending on how much content they're producing, every other month.
Yeah, with the same person, we're saying.
With the same person, the same person. And so that tends to be a good cadence. And you have to keep an eye on the growth of their channel. If their channel isn't growing and they're not getting new viewers on YouTube or on Instagram or whatever, you're going to be reaching the same people over and over again. And yes, people do need to be reached more than once in order to buy a product in many cases. But you do want to be reaching an incremental amount of new people every time you sponsor something. That's part of what you're paying for.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're right. If they keep working with the brand. Now, what's your also thought on this? Like somebody that does too many promotions in a month, right? Like where, you know what I mean? Like, do you ever look at it and you're like, well, every other YouTube video is an ad. Like it's a promo of a product. Like, does the audience get stale to that? And thus they're not as engaged?
I think 5 years ago they would have been. Nowadays, I would say that people expect a sponsor in every video, especially on YouTube. Instagram is a different story. People don't expect as many sponsors and they are more sensitive to it. But on YouTube, people expect that it's part of the transaction. You're getting quality content for free. And yes, YouTube is putting ads on it, but these influencers have to make money as well. And they're spending a lot of time and money and there's a big opportunity cost. So, the most successful, I wouldn't say the most successful, but when a YouTuber decides that every video is a piece of ad inventory, that is a crucial step in their YouTube career. And that is what can help bring the price to something that's a bit more fair. Instead of what I refer to as the FU price, because if it's really high and they're not negotiating on the price at all, then they're just giving you a price that they're like, well, if you're dumb enough to pay this price, then I'll talk about it. You want to avoid those people at all costs.
Well, look, this is some really good knowledge. So the last thing I want to get you for here before we jump off is give us like top 2 pieces of advice to anybody looking to start their influencer marketing. What are the top 2 things you recommend for them to think about?
Test and make sure you're tracking the results. I mean, there's nothing worse than launching a campaign and figuring out that your UTM parameters aren't right for a campaign. So there's no way that you can even track the results if there's anything from the campaign. So just make sure that you've done all the due diligence to make sure the links are in the right places. So if it's an Instagram, make sure that swipe up is going to the right place. I would recommend just giving them the exact link and making it absolutely clear what they have to use. And then make sure that when you're signing up people, especially for paid campaigns that are with guaranteed money, that they try the product, they actually genuinely like it, because those things are going to come off in the content. If someone's difficult to work with on the front end, they're going to be difficult to work with on the back end as well. So just make sure that you gel well with the people you're working with. I always tell people that influencer marketing, it's like relationship management. I am reaching out to every single person. Me and my team are reaching out to every single person we work with on a monthly basis when we're working on new content. And we are being very collaborative with those people. And so just make sure that they know that you're here to help them and that you want them to be successful, because then you're successful.
Yeah, that's great advice. Josh, thanks a ton. Great job at Tiege. Make sure you tell Rob and Kelly I said hi. And for those of you who are watching, thanks so much for tuning in. We're on every Friday at 2:00. I'm also live every Tuesday at No Excuses, and that's at 3:00. If you see this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you check out SUBTA.com. You can join SUBTA for free. And if you think anybody needs to learn any more about influencer marketing, feel free to tag them in this post. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Josh. Thank you guys so much. I will see you next weekend. Or I'll see you next week. Thanks, Josh.
Bye.